What if the woman saving your children is also the one you're most afraid to fall in love with? I never meant to depend on her. Not emotionally. Not like this. But last night as I stood outside the nursery door and watched Claire Dawson, a complete stranger just weeks ago, cradle my son while humming a lullaby from a life I've never known, I realized something terrifying. I don't know how to breathe without her anymore. My name is Daniel Whitman. I'm a billionaire, a widower, and a father to twin boys who refused to sleep after their mother died. I tried everything, doctors, specialists, therapists. Nothing worked. Until Claire walked in quiet as sunlight and shattered the darkness we'd been living in. But just when the house began to feel like home again, she left a letter, and what she wrote almost broke me. If you stay with me, I promise you'll witness a decision that will shake everything. Love, fear, grief, and the fragile possibility of a second chance, colliding in a way that will leave no one untouched. You think you know how this ends? Trust me, you don't. Stay. The once invincible real estate mogul feared in Boston boardrooms and hailed on Forbes lists was now a man haunted by lullabies that never worked, and by the echo of his late wife's absence in every room of his Beacon Hill mansion. His twin sons, Ethan and Liam, just 4 months old, hadn't slept a full hour in weeks. They wailed every night as if grieving with their tiny lungs, their cries slicing through the cold marble halls like alarms that never stopped. 3 professional nannies had come and gone, each one left more broken than the last. It's not just exhaustion, Mr. Whitman said Margaret, his loyal assistant, after the 3rd nanny resigned mid-shift. It's grief. Those babies can feel it, and so can you. Daniel didn't respond. He hadn't slept in 72 hours. That night, slouched over in his dim office, Daniel stared at a silver frame photo, his wife smiling, holding their sons the day they came home from the hospital. Her smile was frozen in time. His soul was not. Out of desperation, he made a phone call. I know someone, Margaret said cautiously. She's not from our usual agencies. She's actually my niece. Just moved here from Santa Fe. She's got experience with infants, though nothing at this level. Does she have references? Daniel's voice was hoarse. She doesn't have credentials like the others, but she has heart. And right now, Daniel, I think your sons need that more than structure. He sighed, rubbing his temples. Bring her in. First thing tomorrow. I don't care if she comes barefoot with a backpack. If she can keep them quiet for even one night, I'll hire her forever. The next morning, Claire Monroe stepped into the Whitman estate like a misplaced breeze in a snowstorm. Simple jeans hair and a ponytail, no designer bag or clipboard in sight. She looked so ordinary that Daniel's first thought was, this will never work. But when she looked up and met his eyes, those amber eyes full of unshakable calm, something shifted. Mr. Whitman, she said, voice steady, thank you for this opportunity. You do understand the situation, don't you? He asked. 2 babies, no sleep, 3 nannies down? You're walking into a war zone, I understand, Claire said gently. But I don't think your sons are at war. I think they're mourning, and they need someone who can sit in that grief with them. Daniel blinked, stunned by the clarity in her words. He said nothing, only gestured toward the grand staircase. Claire followed him silently, her footsteps soft on the marble. At the nursery door, Daniel hesitated. They're having a rough morning. The nanny left last night. They're unsettled. Claire gave a small smile. So am I. But that's okay. He opened the door. Inside, chaos reigned. Blankets flung, bottles untouched. Twin infants crying in stereo, their faces red, their bodies stiff with distress. Any seasoned caregiver would have immediately started troubleshooting. Claire didn't. She walked in, sat cross-legged right on the floor and waited. Just waited. Then she spoke. Hi, she whispered. My name is Claire. I'm not here to fix you. I just want to sit with you while you feel whatever you need to feel. The babies kept crying, but something changed. Their pitch lowered. Their rhythm softened. Claire reached out slowly, letting Ethan grasp her finger. Liam's sobs turned to hiccups. Daniel stood frozen at the door. For the first time in 4 months, his children weren't screaming. May I pick them up? Claire asked. He nodded silently. She gathered one baby into each arm and began to hum, not a lullaby, but a low, wordless hum like the rhythm of wind through trees. Her body swayed gently as she held them close. Within minutes, Liam's eyelids began to flutter. Ethan curled into her shoulder. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He hadn't seen them like this since their mother died. Then suddenly Ethan jerked. His tiny body stiffened. He let out a sharp, pained cry. Claire didn't panic. "He's cramping. Stomach," she said quickly. "I think he's reacting to the formula." What? Daniel stepped forward alarmed. "He's had that one since birth. Sometimes digestion changes under stress." "May I try something?" Without waiting, Claire laid Ethan on the changing mat, gently pressed along his belly, then lifted his legs and folded them rhythmically against his stomach. After a few gentle passes, Ethan passed gas and quieted. Completely. "I can prepare a natural rice-based formula tonight," Claire said, not even out of breath. "It's what my grandmother used when medicine wasn't an option." Daniel stared at her like she had just stepped out of a dream. Later that evening, an unexpected thunderstorm rolled through Boston. Lightning flickered. The power went out. The backup generator failed. The nursery with its electric heating went silent and cold. Daniel rushed upstairs, heart pounding, and stopped at the door. Inside, Claire sat on the rocking chair, skin to skin with both infants, wrapped against her chest. Her body was still humming softly, using only the heat of her own body to regulate theirs. When she looked up, she didn't flinch. "It's okay," she said. "They're warm. They're breathing steady. We'll get through tonight." In the darkness, lit only by a battery-powered lamp, Daniel didn't see a nanny. He saw a miracle. And in that moment, the walls around his heart began to tremble. What would you do if the one person who brought peace to your home had every reason to walk away tomorrow? Would you let them, or would you fight to keep the only light you've known since the darkness began? If you were Daniel Whitman, what would you do? Thank you so much for watching. If this part of the story moved you, please leave a heart and a like and tell me, do you believe some people are sent into our lives exactly when we need them most? Some moments change everything, not with noise, but with silence. And that night in the flickering dark of a storm-soaked Boston, Daniel Whitman stood outside the nursery, staring at the woman who'd done what 3 professionals couldn't bring calm to chaos. For the first time since the funeral, both of his sons were asleep, on her chest, against her skin. Her head leaned back on the rocking chair, her eyes half closed, but she was humming, barely audible, like a prayer meant only for the broken. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat outside the nursery door listening, not for cries this time, but for the silence, and maybe, just maybe, for his own heart to start beating normally again. The next morning, the generator kicked back in, but Daniel didn't call a technician right away. Something about the stillness in the house, the natural, unassisted kind, felt sacred, like waking up from a long nightmare and being afraid to move just in case it wasn't over. Claire had already prepared bottles by the time he walked into the kitchen. Not the store-bought formula the pediatrician recommended, but a homemade warm rice-based blend. She explained it quickly, confidently, as if she'd done this 1,000 times. "It's gentle," she said, "and it's what helped my baby cousin survive when the hospital was 4 hours away and our heater was broken for a week." "You grew up with a lot of hardship, didn't you?" Daniel asked, still groggy. Claire looked at him and hesitated. "I grew up with a lot of love. Sometimes that's all you need to survive the rest." He didn't know how to answer that, so he just nodded and helped warm the bottles. From that day forward, the house began to transform. No more echoing cries, no more emergency calls to sleep consultants, just the slow, steady rhythm of 2 infants healing, and a man watching the woman who made it possible with growing confusion and admiration. Daniel started coming home earlier. He canceled 2 trips. He sat in the nursery sometimes, not to micromanage but to listen. Claire would tell the boys stories from Santa Fe ones about desert owls and ancient stones and rivers that whispered secrets at night. And they'd listen, gurgling, wide-eyed, as if her voice made the world safer. But just as the house grew warmer, Daniel's thoughts turned colder. Who was this woman? Why did she feel like the only thing keeping his grief from consuming him? Why did he find himself waiting for her to walk into a room? And why, more than anything, was he terrified she might leave? The answer came crashing in one night like a storm. He walked into the nursery around midnight. Claire was asleep on the floor with Ethan on her chest. Liam was in the bassinet. It was peaceful, until he saw it. A small folded letter sitting on the edge of the crib. It had his name on it. Daniel. His chest tightened. He picked it up, unfolded it. Mr. Whitman, I'm writing this because I don't want to say it aloud. I'm grateful you trusted me with your sons, but I wasn't supposed to stay this long. I came here to help for a few days. I've already overstayed. This house is not my world. I'm just passing through it, and it scares me how easy it's been to imagine I belong. You're kind, your boys are beautiful, but they don't need me forever, and I can't let myself believe that staying here won't cost me something later. I'm leaving Friday. Thank you for everything. Claire? Daniel couldn't breathe. For a moment, he actually thought his heart had stopped. Friday. That was 2 days away. He folded the note back up, walked out, poured himself a glass of scotch, even though it was nearly 1 a.m. Why did it hurt so much? Was it because she was right that she didn't belong in his world? Or was it because deep down he desperately wanted her to? The next morning he said nothing. Neither did she. But something had shifted. Her touch with the babies was still gentle, but her movements were more deliberate, measured, like she was already packing her emotions into boxes. And then came the real test. That evening, he had to leave for a last-minute meeting with the board of his newest property deal in New York. Just a day trip, he told her. Be back tomorrow night. She smiled and nodded. But halfway through the presentation in Manhattan, his phone buzzed. Claire, too, missed calls. He froze. Then another message came through. Liam had trouble breathing. I called 911. He's stable now in the hospital. I'm with him. He's okay. His vision blurred. Without excusing himself, he stood up, grabbed his coat, and left the building. By midnight, he was back in Boston, walking into the pediatric ER, heart racing. And there she was, Claire, sitting in the corner of a sterile white room, cradling Liam with one arm, phone in the other. Her eyes were red, but her voice was calm. He's fine now. Just a spasm. I recognized it immediately, but I didn't want to take any chances. Daniel didn't speak. He just sat down beside her. A long silence. Finally, Claire whispered, I'm still leaving. And Daniel, exhausted and raw, said, Then let me ask you something, Claire. When Liam's breathing slowed down and his tiny chest finally rose and fell like it was supposed to, did you feel relief? She nodded. Yes. And when Ethan clings to you at night and his cries melt into sleep on your shoulder, do you feel at peace? She nodded again, slower. Daniel leaned forward. Then why are you running away from the only place that gives you both? Her lips trembled, but no words came out. And Daniel thought to himself, don't let her walk away. Not again. Not when the silence feels like home because of her. But the decision wouldn't be made tonight. It would be made tomorrow, and nothing would ever be the same again. Thank you so much for staying with the story so far. I know we're pausing at a difficult moment, but sometimes it's the quiet before the storm that matters most. Let me ask you, do you think Claire is leaving because she's afraid of love, or because she believes she doesn't deserve it? If this story touched something in you, please leave a like and a heart. It means the world. The morning after the hospital scare arrived like an unexpected sunrise, quiet, golden, and uncertain. Daniel Whitman stood at the kitchen window staring at the bare branches of the tree in the backyard, the kind his late wife once said would look beautiful with fairy lights in the spring. But now all he saw were memories and what-ifs. Behind him, soft footsteps entered. Claire. She looked tired. Her hair was loose, her eyes shadowed from the long night. Yet somehow her presence filled the silence with warmth. Coffee, she asked softly. He turned, nodded. Yeah, thanks. As she poured, he took in every small movement, the way she touched things gently like everything mattered, like it all deserved care. But time was running out. It was Friday. I've booked a car to take you to the station at 4 p.m. He said, not quite meeting her eyes. She paused. Thank you. I also packed the boys' favorite blankets. They tend to sleep better when they smell like you. That made her smile, but her eyes shimmered with something unspoken. Regret or fear, maybe both. Claire turned away and busied herself washing bottles, but Daniel walked closer. You don't have to go, Claire. I do, she whispered. This place isn't mine. I was just passing through. You were never just passing through. He said it firmly, his voice cracking. You walked in and everything changed. She shook her head slowly. It's not about the boys anymore, is it? No, he admitted. Then silence. And then she asked the question he wasn't ready for. What do you want from me, Daniel? He swallowed hard. The air between them felt fragile, like a glass about to shatter. I want you to stay, but not as a nanny. I want you to stay because this house only feels alive when you're in it. I want you here because I think you've given me back pieces of myself I didn't even know were missing. Claire stared at him, eyes wide. That's not fair, she whispered. You're grieving. You're lonely. I don't want to become your emotional crutch. You're not, he said quickly. You're the only reason my sons smile, and you're the only reason I can breathe again. Claire's voice trembled. And what if I mess it up? What if I love you, and it all falls apart like everything else in my life has? Daniel stepped closer, gently lifting her chin so her eyes met his. Then we fall together, and we build something better from the pieces. She blinked, and the first tear fell. Then Ethan cried out from the nursery. Neither of them moved, and then she laughed through her tears. That's our cue, huh? They walked upstairs side by side, like parents, like partners. Claire picked up Ethan and rocked him. Liam stirred in his crib, cooing softly. Daniel watched quiet. This was the moment he'd feared losing, the one he realized he wanted more than success, more than control, this simple, soft kind of peace. I'm scared, she admitted, not looking at him. So am I, he said. But maybe we're not supposed to wait for life to feel perfect before we begin living it again. Claire glanced at him, then nodded. One condition. Name it. I get to hang fairy lights on that tree out back when spring comes. Daniel's breath caught. You remembered that, she smiled. I remember everything that makes this place feel like a home. Later that week, Margaret returned from a short vacation. She stepped into the house and blinked. The halls were filled with music, soft jazzy. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. A faint scent of cinnamon lingered in the air. She peeked inside and saw Daniel making pancakes in a mess of flour, Ethan in a carrier on his chest, and Claire trying to teach Liam how to clap. For a long moment, Margaret said nothing. Then she whispered to herself, finally. Spring came early that year, and when the fairy lights twinkled on the bare branches of that tree one night in April, 2 babies were giggling beneath it, their father holding one, their new mother holding the other. It didn't look perfect. It looked real. It looked like healing. And in that quiet backyard lit with soft lights and second chances, Daniel leaned toward Claire and said, You were never the one passing through, Claire. You were always the destination. She smiled and kissed him under the lights. Because sometimes the best families aren't born. They're built through grief, through choice, and through love that refuses to leave. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. Now let me ask you, have you ever met someone who entered your life when you needed them most, even if you didn't realize it at the time? Do you believe a broken family can become whole again in unexpected ways? What do you think of this story? If it touched your heart, please comment, note through below. If it felt just okay, comment number 2. If you felt it didn't quite land, be honest and write number 1. Also, let us know which country you're watching from, and don't forget to leave a heart and share this video with someone who believes in second chances.